Good afternoon, guys. After work on the 5th of January. Got some snow falling outside. Looks like we've got about 3 inches so far. And Kim asked me a couple of days ago if I would make her a turntable. She's started to get more into the paper mache stuff, and what she wants is to be able to start a project and then turn it as she works instead of having to constantly move around. So this is all pretty much made, with the exception of the swivel, with salvaged stuff. These 2 pieces of cabinet plywood are from stuff I found alongside the road. This is just some cabinet sets. It's just, I believe it's just poplar cabinet grade plywood that has been stained a cherry color, which that really doesn't matter what color it is, because it's going to get pretty well splattered with paper mache and things like that as she uses it. But it was good plywood, and I actually did get some good solid cherry drawer fronts out of this package that I brought home. I kind of knocked it apart with my hammer and threw it in the bed of my truck and brought it home. So not really with anything in mind other than it was just a shame to let it go to waste. So I've taken them over to the table saw and I've cut them to 24 by 24, and I've laid out the pattern. This is just a swivel out of a boat seat. And so what I've done is laid it on here, centered it on this this top piece, and I've just punched my holes where I'm going to drill down for these. These are just some carriage bolts. And these I have just been saving. I got a huge bucket of these things in different lengths. And back when I did garage door work, these are what you use to bolt together a cedar or hemlock garage door. If you notice, the carriage bolts are flat instead of domed, so they would finish nice and flush. They're different lengths, but I've got them pulled down to the right length here. And I'm going to have to cut these off, and rather than trying to find a creative way to do this with a bandsaw or something, I'm just going to go to the direct approach and pop them in two with these bolt cutters. Then I'll grind off the jagged edge and then back my nut off, and that'll reform my thread. I'm going to donate one of my little drill press vices. I've got a few of these things laying over there. I cleaned the cutting oil and stuff off of it, but I'm going to mount this on the just about the center of the top board so she can actually clamp a workpiece down, and they're usually just wire forms. This Craftsman vise has little V notches into it for holding different kinds of stock, and I find them perfect just for holding the heads of these carriage bolts while I lop them off. So I'm just laying the cutters against my nut and popping it in two. Then I'll dress that burr down on the grinder. I'll clamp my 2 pieces together, and I've already checked. And these clamps hold it off my workbench enough to where when I go all the way through, I'm not going to strike my work table. So those are 1/4-20, and I just went a size larger than 1/4-20 for just a little bit of wiggle room. I want to put a little radius on these corners to soften them, and I'm going to use my fancy radius gauge here. And while I've got them clamped together, I'm just going to cut both pieces at once. I got a couple of 2x4s under here. I'm getting ready to attach the top to the swivel, so I just put these carriage bolts in there, and I'm just going to get them pulled down where they'll hold themselves with the square part. And then when I cinch them down, I think it'll pull them down pretty flush. The DeWalt cordless grinder is handy. Well, as handy as a cordless tool can be. You know the battery runs out right when you get to the work. if I stack a couple of parallels on top of each other, it just holds that up enough to where the square will prevent it from turning while I tighten it, and then it'll be loose enough to where I can just tilt it and get my parallels out of there. So, got the bottom attached. Get some of this stuff out of the way since I don't need it anymore. And the only thing I have left to do is I'm going to make some feet. And mostly she's going to be using this on the floor of her shop, which is carpeted. But I'm going to make some feet for the corners and then one for the center, just to keep it from, warping or whatever. But yeah, it swivels nicely. Alright, I'm just going to roughly center the vise. I don't know how wide are the things. Mostly it's going to be the bottoms of wire forms. Alright, went around the all the edges with the sander, got anything rough off of there. So yeah, I think that's kind of what she was talking about. Going to take the air hose and blow the sawdust off of it, and then I'll run it into the house and see if this is what she wanted. And instead of fender washers and wood screws, I had a bunch of these, and these are self-tapping little legs. And they drill a hole ahead of themselves. They'll go through metal, and they do a good job in wood. And they'll drill a pilot hole so when the threads catch, it won't split out wood. Not that this plywood would split, but just another thing we use in the garage door industry when I did that. But yeah, I believe that'll hold a paper mache product or project and turn it as she needs. So this might rank right up there with that lamp. So points.